Hello, good afternoon to Facebook, YouTube land. My name is Nicole M. Young Martin, and I am the producer and host of Black Writers Read. Happy Juneteenth, happy Pride, happy Father's Day, happy African American Music Appreciation Month. Let's celebrate all the things, including the fact that we are gathered here together. We are now at the final episode of season 2 of Black Writers Read. As always, I am coming to you from my home office in Northern Connecticut, where the weather continues to be confused thanks to global warming. As was sitting here only just a couple of days ago, actually, not weeks, but just days, in a tank top and sweating like I would be in an 80s aerobics tape. And now I'm sitting here kind of cold and chattering because of this brisk breeze outside. I think the wind right now is like 1,000 miles per hour. I know I'm perimenopausal too, but dang, New England, I need y'all to get it together. I know I've been here for a while. I'm going to understand y'all weather patterns. Black Writers Read showcases, celebrates, and honors the words, work, and traditions of Black writers from across the country, across genres, across experiences, and across the African diaspora. Black Writers Read is a behind-the-scenes conversation into the craft and what it means to create as a Black author in today's society. Since starting the series during the summer of 2020, we've hosted over 30 authors representing various genres, including children's books, young adult fiction, poetry, urban creative nonfiction, memoir, history, horror, essays, food and culture from around the globe, including Western Massachusetts, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., upstate New York, Vermont, Cambridge, Massachusetts, and Portugal. Since we were last together last month, the audio podcast version of Black Writers Read launched. I will be posting retrospectives, which will be recaps from some of my favorite past episodes, along with some bonus episodes throughout the summer. New episodes will post beginning in September, which will join the catalog of the live stream series. So I am extremely excited to get today's conversation started. Today, we welcome conceptual artist, curator, and nonfiction writer Natasha Marin, joining us from Seattle, Washington. Natasha Marin, who is of Trinidad, Canada, and United States origins, is a writer represented by Janklau and Nesbitt, and conceptual artist whose people-centered projects have circled the globe since 2012 and has been recognized and acknowledged by Art Forum, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times, NBC, Al Jazeera, Vice, PBS, and others. She is the curator of Black Imagination, which was published by McSweeney's in 2020. Excerpts from the book recently appeared in the Paris Review and Poetry Daily. Today, Natasha will be reading excerpts from Black Imagination in her forthcoming collection, Black Powerful, Black Voices Reimagine Revolution, which has already received a significant amount of praise. Black Powerful is available for pre-order now. I am beyond excited that Black Writers Read kicks off Natasha's press tour for the newest book. This book is published by McSweeney's and will be released around sometime in early September. Please learn more about Black Imagination by visiting its website, black-imagination.com. For those who are new to Black Writers Read, here's the format of our show. First, I'll bring Natasha on to share some excerpts of her work. Afterwards, we'll engage in a conversation, and then we'll open it up to Q&A to all of our viewers. We have viewers joining us from both Facebook and YouTube today. If you have a question, please feel free to include it in the comment section on the platform where you're joining us from today. I will compile the questions and pose them to Natasha following our conversation. I'd now like to welcome Natasha to the virtual stage. Hello.
Hi. Good afternoon.
Good. Finally, good afternoon.
Pride.
I know. Happy
Pride.
Yes.
And happy Father's Day too. I'm not going to be too much of a hater.
Yes.
But I mean, do the patriarchs really need a whole nother day in a patriarchy?
No,
like that just seems
they got every day.
Every day.
They got every day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's still winter in the Pacific Northwest. We are waiting. We are still waiting. Maybe if somebody makes an animal sacrifice, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, we can get a few more days of sunshine. I say do what needs to be done. because I'm gonna die. I'm gonna
Wait,
die.
what's the temperature right now outside?
I want to say it's probably in the 50s.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
it's no fun. It's no fun at all.
Wow.
It's 59. It's 59 degrees. We're almost at 60. Woohoo! Yeah.
I need to send y'all some of our 80-degree humidity from New England.
I have a friend who showed me a picture of what she looked like as a child, and she was like brown. Okay. And I was like, what happened to you? And she said, I've been living in Seattle. That's
Yes.
the whole story. Yep. Yeah. We're
That's
all going
so
to end up
crazy.
palm colored and slapping our veins for vitamin D. Okay. Because that's what the people need. But yeah, so
Yes.
today I'm supposed to share. I'm going to share. Um,
Yes.
the beauty of this project is I get to, oh, I don't even know if you can see because I've got my
Yes.
blur on, but you can see my nails though.
Your nails are so cute.
Right. But the beauty of black, thank you. I hated them when they were done because they looked like demonic candy cane to me. And I had asked for a sunset and it's not, but then it was giving me a little bit of pride. So I was like, okay, it's giving pride. I'm okay with it. But we're not here to talk about my nails. We're here to promote, this is what our people want us to do. They want us to stay focused and not just play. Because I would just play with you for an hour. That's what I would do. But Black imagination is really a collection of other people's words. And it's not like particularly fancy people or not fancy people's words. It's just people, you know. The whole project begins with like, what happens if we just focus on ourselves?
Oh
You know,
wow.
how often have you been at like a lecture or reading or a talk and a black person is giving it and the black person is talking about black people and they're referring to black people as like them?
I
That's
don't think
happened,
I've
right?
ever.
That
Right.
always happens. That's what we do. We them ourselves to make
Yes.
other people comfortable. And like what happens if we just don't? Like if what if it is actually about us for like 5 seconds, you know? Can we give ourselves permission to just focus? And you do all the time. Black Writers Read is obviously like a dedicated black space. And I'm
Yes.
sure people have had plenty to say about that. But
Yes. So
yeah, so oh please go
oh
ahead.
no, I was gonna say I'll turn it over to you to read.
Yeah, so this is like, a space for black folks and typically with black imagination, I hope also with the forthcoming Black Powerful, folks will feel free to just like flip through and see where it opens. It's not a book that you have to read in order. Um, there are questions that I pose to folks in Black Imagination. I ask people, what is your origin story? How do you heal yourself? And to describe or imagine a world where you are loved, safe, and valued. And I just flipped open to the origins section and I landed on Quentin Baker. Quentin Baker is from Seattle, Washington. And in response to what is your origin story, Quentin says, my origin story is being object and subject, being put upon, pushed down, and pressed into something that I didn't know I needed to be or could be in order to survive to the next day or the next week. It's one of contortion, the way that I had to turn myself into different forms of refracted light just to escape the different types of gazes, grabs, hands, limbs reaching out. It's just like everything I encountered wanted a piece or part of me, wanted to take something. It felt like the origin of me was the origin of theft, and I had to learn how to not be stolen from while also stealing enough to keep myself alive. Quentin is a writer, so that's how Quentin's thoughts come out. But this isn't a collection of people who are like dedicating their lives to the written word. This is just folks. But I love Quentin's response to the question, what is your origin story? There are also rituals that I've written that are in Black imagination. and I'll share one of those. This is Ritual for Unbusying. Afternoon sun and gin whenever possible, but on an overcast day, one might choose first not to bathe. Let the smell of you, your legs sliding open, be a reminder that you are an animal. All the timpani of self importance drumming like a corrugated crown of incessant rain. Silence is what you need now. Naps. The sound of someone else's voice as you read. Unbraid and run your fingers through your own tangles. Savor every moment of this languor. Put lemongrass on your scalp, orange on the soles of your feet. And I'm just going to give it another flip, see where we end up. Okay, I ended up in the healing section. This response to how do I heal myself comes from Ebo Barton of Seattle, Washington. I heal myself with words. I also hurt myself with words. It's in the combination of words that I find hurt and healing. There are days I allow broken glass hands to cut me. There are days I allow clumsy, selfish, unfocused elitists in this bed. I heal myself with poems, words from the mouths of violins, of fingertips of untouched nape, from the words of composers that somehow know me, that I have lived lives I have yet to know, but will, that live among the stars I still worship. I invite poems to join me in my room, provide me something more than this, life. Enough time to pass from my skin to find my wounds open and cover them back up. And, okay, let's see. When I asked Erwin Thomas of Brooklyn, New York, to imagine a world where he felt loved, safe, and valued, he said, "A world where I am safe, valued, and loved is filled with youth who ask questions that adults have no fear to answer. Elders hold court on the weekend to captive audiences where entire communities share stories regularly. I travel with those I love to experience love in new places. I have a network of people I care for and who care for me. We work and play together. We share wealth and resources. My grandmother doesn't worry when I leave her home after sundown. There is a relaxed nature about public transportation. People in my community ask for directions, advice, and wisdom. There are images and statues and stories written and told and retold about my ancestors and their contributions to humanity. There is a weekly celebration for small victories, mine or someone else's. Conversations are had under moonlight. There is no one way to be or see anything. Few ever get lost or go without food, clothing, shelter, education, or trusted community." And that's like Black imagination. Vanessa German did the amazing cover. I'm holding it in an angle so the blur doesn't pick up, and it's doing it. And Vanessa German kindly allowed me to use her art for the cover of Black Powerful as well. It's absolutely stunning. Again, even if you don't read, you might just want to have these books just to look pretty. That's fine. I don't know about y'all, but I buy lots of books that I intend to read, and they do just look pretty until I, in fact, read them, which could be years later, if at all, ever. So if you're looking for some books to pressure you into reading that happen to look quite stunning, in the meantime, Black Imagination and Black Powerful are super cute, thanks to Vanessa German. And in Black Powerful, the sequel, I also ask a reprise of can you imagine a world where you're loved, safe, and valued? But I also ask 100 Black folks from all over the diaspora, what does it sound like when you claim yourself? When do you feel most powerful? And when do you feel most rooted and Indigenous? And for that last question, when do you feel most rooted and Indigenous, I asked Lori Ivy Alexander, who was born and currently lives in Washington, D.C., and this is what Lori had to say. I feel most rooted to the place where I stand. My ancestors have been on this very land, in this very spot, for eons. I feel tied to this earth, to these waters, to this air. I know these trees. I am the third generation in this very house. I am the 10th generation to live on the land we call the home place. I trace myself and my people beyond world wars, beyond the enslavement, beyond the founding of this nation, beyond the whites stumbling upon that we call the founding of the New World. I am Old World Indigenous. My indigeneity is rooted in this convergence of humanity. I am the turtle of the island, and the shell on my back is the map of my history. The tale of 1,000 mothers climbing through the eyes of 100 needles. I am indigenous to everywhere. But my story is even older and vaster than that. I am indigenous to impossibility. I am indigenous to the unfathomable. I am indigenous to the land that is too old to be remembered. I am indigenous to the stars. And it was, it was kind of interesting talking to Black people specifically about our indigeneity, because for some reason people do not recognize Blackness as indigeneity. And that is always really strange to me, because I wonder, where do these people think the Black people who were kidnapped were taken from? Like, who do they think was kidnapped? Who do they think was taken? It was people who were indigenous to the motherland, of course. So, I've been thinking about Blackness and indigeneity for a while. So I've really enjoyed asking folks this question. Destiny Birdsong, who was born in Shreveport, Louisiana, and currently lives in Nashville, Tennessee, responded this way. I feel most rooted in my house, surrounded by silence. I feel most rooted in poems. I feel most rooted in the telling of my own stories. I feel most rooted when I laugh. I feel most rooted when around my friends, and when I'm surrounded by their love, which is a complete and perfect gift. I feel most rooted in the corner of my room, watching the birds and talking to God. I feel most rooted when he talks back in signs: cardinals, herons, single white moths. I feel most rooted walking, and in any place that is green, flat, and near water. I feel most rooted surrounded by people who are quietly minding their own business and letting me live. Andre Ouellette was born in Kingston, Jamaica, and currently lives in Denver, Colorado. He responds this way. I feel most rooted with other Caribbean islanders, rooted with cassava and dasheen, with plantain, rooted together with red snapper, fried whole, and festival and dumplings. We are rooted in ackee and saltfish, and in carnival time. Here we are rooted on Arawak and Taino land. We are rooted in sugar and how it thickened in our blood and calloused our hands, how it dims our sight. We root like cuttings from the mother tree, and our seed has scattered and rooted on every continent. Christine Platt was born in Pleasant City, West Palm Beach, Florida, and currently lives in Washington, D.C. Christine responds this way. The only time I ever feel rooted and not displaced is when I visit my true home, West Africa. And although it is a home where I have no residence, no village to claim, or ancestors I can call by name, there is an undeniable connection I have to the country and its people. I feel safe within my brown skin, to laugh loud and dream louder, to exist and thrive as a carefree Black woman rather than survive within the confines of America's white supremacy culture. To simply be, to simply be. And there is no other place I would rather be in the world. Okie dokie. Our Erica Doyle was born and currently lives in Brooklyn, New York. She writes, where the hummingbirds carry the spirits of my ancestors, where the scarlet ibis flows the path of our canoes. You think I'm only driving standard up North Coast Road for show? Just along this mountain shelf, our heads were hung from stakes. In the cocoa valleys, we swallowed them whole into ourselves. Street vendor ask, how long you in New York? On Morning Cocoa Road, I fade into anyone else on a veranda. And Shayla Lawson was born in Rochester, Minnesota, and currently lives in LA. Shayla writes, I wake up in the morning and I see my hair. I love it. It is rooted. I love that it is a continual craft work that is a part of my connection to my ancestors. It makes me feel beautiful. It makes me feel like I'm always going to be alive. So that's kind of like Black people talking about indigeneity. And like I said, I asked people again to imagine a world where we're loved, safe, and valued. And Renee Sims, who was born in Detroit, Michigan, and currently lives in Tacoma, Washington, said this. The plastic table is yay high and square. Grooved aluminum. Oh my God, I'm so Canadian. Sorry. Grooved aluminum. I'll start again. Sorry, Renee. The plastic table is yay high and square. Grooved aluminum around its edge. One side of the table is against a kitchen wall. I sit there with my shoulder quietly pressed into the yellow wall paint. Although my table seats two, I am the only one sitting. Grandma Turner stands at her countertop. She's cutting a sandwich in half the long way, which I like. When she's done, she places the plate before me and leaves. When I'm alone in a sunlit room, I'm eating peanut butter and jelly on Wonder Bread. Leon's not home yet. He has Billy D hair that's silver with waves my grandmama loves. Leon's teeth are dark and spaced far apart. He has a surprising smile. A sandwich in their house tastes better somehow. Maybe because I'm left alone to daydream as I eat. Maybe because the curtains wave to me from the window over the sink. No one waves or shares imperfect teeth when you're grown. No one brings you a plate of food just because. Wow, that really hits home. I'm sorry, like no one really does bring you a plate of food just because. We're in dire times, folks. Imani Cage was born and currently lives in Seattle, Washington, and this is what Imani says. Oh, when I imagined a kind of world like that, I think I just mainly imagined not being afraid to go outside and get kidnapped or murdered because I'm female or just because of my skin color. Kristen Alana was born in Dover, Delaware, and currently lives in Seattle, Washington. Kristen says, a world where I am safe and loved is full of hand-holding and tenderness. Things are beautifully balanced, and I can rest wherever I desire. I can play wherever I desire. I can love whomever I desire. Kindness and community are priceless commodities that cannot be bought or sold, only received and given in unlimited abundance.
Thank you so much for reading and sharing such amazing words. I have so many questions for you about both books.
Thank you for making the space.
Yeah. So, Natasha, the first question that I have for you is given that Black Imagination was published in 2020, and then this book is forthcoming in the next couple of months, very soon, can you talk about what brought you to conceiving both projects?
Hmm. Um, hmm. I was sitting I was sitting in a room waiting to go on NPR with a friend, Amani Sims, and we were listening to, gosh, this had to be like 2018, maybe?
Mm.
Maybe it was 2017. But we were listening to cops talk about how to stop police brutality, something very confusing. Anyway, we were hearing the voices of white men discuss things that I don't know where they would get the authority to discuss these things. So we were just sort of having that conversation that like women have when you're not using words, you're just like, it's your expressions, but you're hearing the same thing or you're observing the same thing. Um, and we decided to imagine what revenge would look like. Um,
Ooh.
and we weren't very far into our imagining before we both kind of recoiled, because we had kind of disturbed ourselves in our imaginations. And so in that sort of recovery from the recoil, we were like, well, what would it be like to just take whiteness out of the situation completely, um, and just completely decenter whiteness? So the projects, I don't even think of it as separate projects. Black Imagination is just one big project, and it has more than one book now. The second book is called Black Powerful, but it's not part of the Black Imagination project.
Mhm.
Um, Really, this was the beginning of exhibitions. So the books
Oh.
the books are like the last kind of thing to come out of Black Imagination. Um, if you were to have gone to that first exhibition that was in Seattle at the Core Gallery, you would have first of all had to identify, based on your own demographic, like racial identity, how you're
Mm.
going to make your appointment. So Black people would always be free. Um, Non-Black people of color would pay $5 for a half an hour appointment, and white identified folks would pay $20 for a half an hour
Mm.
appointment. And you'd be escorted through a pitch black gallery while blindfolded by a nationally recorded vocal artist, Ayanna Hobson, who would sing you through a web of voices responding to these questions. So it was extremely immersive. Like you were literally like in the dead of Seattle winter. I think this was January of 2018. Um, you would come in from the cold into like a warm space. It's like pitch black. And you only had audio simulation. There were also like people in the space, maybe doing breath work, like, or drumming. There were people dancing sometimes, call and response, in addition to these like radio quality recordings of folks responding to these prompts. Um,
Wow.
so the books were like a result of that. That's like curating out from 2 years of exhibitions, the book, Black
Oh.
Imagination. And then Black Powerful, I had already been asking more questions because now I'm kind of obsessed with asking hundreds of Black people the same few questions and sort of, you know, looking to see where the data falls.
Mhm.
Um, and initially, I noticed some things like when I asked people, diasporic Black folks here, uh, what their origin story was, people would
Mm.
immediately engage their imagination. When I asked continental Africans what their origin story was, it was like an indigenous recount of like my mother's father's people came from here, my mother's people came from here, my mother came from here, my father came from here, I came from here. We ended up here because X. Our festivals are like this. It was like so not hypothetical. You know what I mean? Um,
Mhm.
and I noticed that right away, which was interesting. Um, that imagination is literally like a diasporic coping mechanism, to fill in the blanks that we don't know. So um, the books are the books I think of as community you can take with you, like
Mm.
portable community. Um, for the most part, everybody in this books is still on Earth with us today,
Oh,
and
good.
you can hear what we think, and if you're curious, because obviously it's not just Black people who read these books, this is a great way to kinesthetically shut the fuck up. Can I say that?
Yes, you can.
And hear what Black people have to say, because so many people want to explain things to us and they really just need to sit down and listen, including us. We need to
Mhm.
stop sort of snorting lines of white ideas like lines off of strippers' ass. Like,
Yes.
we can do more, and just focusing on ourselves for a minute is a great way to heal. Maybe 400 years of that, see where we're at.
Yeah, and I'm glad this takes me into the next question that I have. Because you're one of the many people that I've interviewed over the past couple of years, and I think it's because my work speaks to this as well, that finds ways to incorporate joy and healing and autonomy and belonging and all of these things in their work. So, given that you are, I would like to, I hope this is okay to say, a multimedia, multidimensional artist, how does ritual inform your work, both as a conceptual artist and also as a curator, and then also as someone who works within the realm of nonfiction writing?
Well, it's funny because I call this nonfiction because it's literally testimonies. It's like more like
Yeah.
anthropology, which is, evil and horrible. So maybe more of an ethnography, I don't know, of Black people alive today all over Earth. So I don't think of it as fiction. This is not fiction. Even when
Hmm.
we are imagining, this is like a documentary. Um, I don't necessarily know that I write nonfiction, even though I do. You know what I mean? I'm still struggling with understanding myself as a writer, because I ran screaming away from this life after going to graduate school for writing.
Oh.
Just like we all the way home. I found some comfort in um, artist communities because to me, it seemed like to be a writer, you had to kind of like get jumped into the gang.
Yup.
Some really horrific life experiences. And basically, that's like how you earn the right to say something.
Yup.
Because really, we don't, you know what, like Rebecca, if you spent all day gardening and that was after your husband gave you his credit card and you picked up the kids for soccer practice, like, please, am I allowed to curse? I don't know if I am.
Yes, please
Please,
do. You said Rebecca. I was like,
please
yes.
shut the fuck up. Do not decide that you need to be a writer and imagine the life of like a Vietnamese family of refugees. Don't
Yes.
do it. Don't do it. But for sure, you know what I mean? Tell your stories to your people and great, but you don't need to take up all the space in the universe. Um,
Yes.
so I didn't want to be jumped into that gang. It looked rough. It looked rough. Like the things people have to go through to then be
Mhm.
like writers. It's like, yeah, I heard my mom kill herself when I was 13, and now I'm writing a book about that. Like, that's Nick Flynn's A Little Door Slides Back. Like,
Mhm.
amazing, amazing. And I hardly ever have anything nice to say about writing of white men, but like, sometimes it's okay if you say something. But yeah, for the most part, I just think we need to listen to ourselves and each other, tell more of our own stories, and we need to validate that like it's, I don't know, gospel. It's sacred. Our experiences are really sacred. So these books and the ritual, like in terms of ritual, I think we're all doing it all the time. I don't know that we give it credit, but if you wake up every morning and you have a coffee, like
Yep.
that's a ritual in your life. If it brings you some peace and some joy, great. That's hopefully that's why you're doing it. Um, I like the TikToks that suggest that if you're not doing drugs or drinking coffee, that you're raw dogging life. Yeah.
Which I got my, what
Like,
is this? What did I get before the interview?
I
I
am
got,
so jealous right
yes.
now. Like I might have to get up and just like make a cappuccino while I'm talking because yes, the jealousy.
Yes.
But yeah, we need to be joyful. It's our birthright. The rituals I practice are smoking. Um,
Mm.
it's not the healthiest one, but I smoke because I'm not a quitter. Um, and writing, of course, is a ritual. I think a lot of us do it because we have to. It's not really a choice. We're trying to cope. And what else? What else is a ritual? I imagine myself having the kind of life where, first of all, I live this like minimalist, you know, wet dream of just like clear surfaces with no clutter. Okay. So like I'm
Wow.
opening up one of these like perfectly organized cabinets and taking out like a plate that's like my favorite plate, or a bowl that's my favorite bowl, or a cup that's my favorite cup. And I'm the type of person that spends like 25 minutes making themselves a coffee drink in the morning,
Oh.
or maybe a tea drink, the kind of thing that has like cubes of dragon fruit in it. You've seen it, and this is how I
Oh.
live my life. Like every morning, this is what I'm doing. And maybe I'm listening to like an audiobook or something so I can feel like I'm learning. Maybe I'm actually doing Duolingo, practicing a language. Like I'm actually living out the dream of who I pretend that you know what I'm saying? Like
Yes.
these are the rituals I would like to have, and then after that, I'm like, I stretch every day because I want to be like a bendy old lady, you know, I want to be the kind of old lady that can like pole dance and make people feel really
Yes,
uncomfortable.
please do. I'm gonna come see you. I got my dollars ready.
Yeah, so this is who I want to be. So every day I'm kind of working towards that. I have never cubed dragon fruit and put it in a drink yet, but that doesn't
Mhm.
mean I'm not going to. Like
You will.
maybe that's the next thing I'm going to do. What about you? What is like your guilty ritualistic pleasure?
Oh, and I'm glad that you asked that. For people who have been following Black Writers Read for a while, which are a lot of my friends, they know this. I am a like coffee enthusiast, so much so one of the pieces of merch for Black Writers Read is a coffee mug. And I am bougie as fuck when it comes to coffee. Like I right before this, I drove 45 minutes to get this.
That's dedication.
Ouch.
That's what that is. That's dedication, actually. Yeah. Okay. So I see you
Yes.
dedicated to the craft.
And then also I journal a lot. And I do, speaking of journaling and writing, I do want
Do
to
you
talk
bullet
about,
journal?
yes, I want to talk about the because this gets me through. This is one of the reasons why Black Writers Read exists. I want to talk to you about the getting jumped into the writing
The writing
gang.
gang?
Yes, because I have my MFA and another genre. Um, I have it in theater, and I feel like any
So you
type
were just
of,
determined to be poor.
yeah, pretty, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
teasing.
yeah, with owing a
You're like,
lot
I
of debt.
will. Oh, maybe for the rest of my life, they're going to be like, hey,
Yes, I'm
where's
gonna
our
be
cat?
broke as fuck.
Right.
And
But your critical thinking skills, though.
I know I have a lot of them because I'm getting my fourth degree. I'm getting a doctorate.
Oh my
I'm gonna have a
God.
big ass brain.
You could be like, you want some critical thinking skills?
Yes.
I got all the critical thinking skills. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yes. Actually, before I go into this, I want to stop and acknowledge a question that just came in on the feed. And this is a great question. It's not writing related, but it's ritual related. It's important. It gets you to be the creative. It is a question about skincare routine because your skin is flawless. And I would like to know,
Hilarious.
we would like to know, is there a skincare
It's
regimen?
lies. It's a lie. If you hold on for 2 seconds, I'm going to show you what's really happening. Okay, 2 seconds. Give me two
Yes,
seconds.
go right ahead. I wish there was some music I can play that wasn't copywritten, as we are on hold right now. If I did try to play some copywritten music, I'll be pulled off the air. So I hope everybody that's sitting here is enjoying themselves. Yay, she's back.
Of course, my blur is still on, so you can't see anything, but I will read you. This is okay, and this is only because I'm in my Seattle shade. For folks out there who are meeting for me for the first time, I swear to God, I'm a black person. Um, I know, I know, I know, I
Yes.
know, I know. I also don't want to hear a goddamn thing a light skinned person has to say. So I would shut up
Yes.
if I could, but they're making me do this. So only because I am extremely devastatingly pale right now, can I pull off Revlon's Photo Ready Candid Glow. It says Moisture Glow Anti-Pollution Foundation. And it comes in a little pumpy thing, you know?
Yes.
So if you're lazy, I don't even use sponges and stuff. I just pump and then just like lotion. And that's what we're doing today. Because you best believe I was 15 minutes off of a call, wishing the patriarch happy Father's Day, and then did like Tyra's go see situation so that I
She
can
said
interact
to
with the
go
public
see.
and not hurt people's eyeballs. Because it was rough. It was looking rough this morning. But thank you. I would also like to be the kind of person that has like, the Korean TikTokers that have like 47 products and then they steam their face every day and then they use like the rolling jade ball and like the ice. And I want to do all that too. I want to have that kind of life where every night before I go to bed, I just make love to my face with
Yes.
like all sorts of creams and jelly masks and yeah, and of course I'd have to do it for the gram. Like I couldn't just do a private, skincare routine. What is the point of that? If people aren't
Right.
looking at you and being jealous of your skincare routine, what is the point? I
Yes.
jest. But yeah, I want to be that kind of person. But we all know as melanated people, the only thing we need is some sunshine. Give us some sunshine and some butters, shea butter, cocoa butter. Um, I'm not a really like a makeup wearing person, so usually I'm wearing shea butter, which if you're
Yes.
pale gives you a little color too. You know what I mean? Like if you're looking particularly sallow, shea butter will make you like get a little bit of a little glow, an
I
artificial
did
glow.
not know that
Yeah.
because I'm melanated and I'm shea buttered up, but I did not know that shea butter did that. That is so good to
Well, you know how
know.
your calves get really pale in the winter because
Yes.
yes. If you put some shea butter on there, it'll look like you actually got some sun. Like it's a great fake trick. But I love that. I'm so glad that no one is
Yes.
interested in my books at all and is more interested in my glowing skin. Like, know this. Know that I am flattered.
Yes.
Really, truly, it's the people in the books that I'm out here hustling for. Because as you can see, like
Aw.
there's a few of my words in there, but honestly, we need to see ourselves elevated, and
We
not
do.
just because like we went and hemorrhaged all of our life savings away on student loans, like Nicole and I, but
Yes.
like even if you haven't been to school. And gotten a bunch of degrees that make you convinced that you're a writer, or published anything at all. There are lots of people whose first time being published is in Black Imagination and Black Powerful. Like we've got
Oh,
like
wow.
young people, children, people of all ages, because I think we all deserve some time. If this were in person, I would almost certainly pass my microphone to just a stranger and have them take up some of my time because we need to listen to each other.
We do. I would love if people from the book are open to it when it's released in September. Here's a space. Be like, do you want to read your essay? Boom, here we go. Like, I'm
That would be
so
awesome.
open to that.
That would be really awesome because there are some wonderful people in Black Powerful, and I am so
Yes.
excited because people have had to be patient. You've heard about the paper shortage, right, in the publishing
Yes.
industry. Like everyone's books are coming out late. This was supposed to come out in May, and now
Oh.
we're fingers crossed it comes out in September because we need your dog needs your attention.
Yeah, we have three dogs, three out of the I don't know how many breathing beings, and they have somehow or another made an appearance on every
Yeah.
episode of Black Writers Read since this has started, and we only got one black dog. One. So the other two are not black. So they got the nerve to be taking up
That's
space.
hilarious.
I'm gonna need my non-black dogs to shut up. Let
Like,
the black dogs speak.
let the black dog speak. I can't remember what I was saying, but it was cute because usually it's my actual children that are, you know, loudly playing video games or asking me a question as soon as I get on the phone, like immediately. Can be with me for hours, paying no attention to me at all. The second I am on the phone, burning questions that must be answered.
And it's nothing important. It'll be like, why is the sky blue? Why are you asking me that right now?
Can I have some ice cream? That's a big one around here. Wait until mom's distracted and then ask for something. Yeah.
Or do you think one of your children may make a premiere on Black Writers Read today?
I'm actually really surprised, knock on wood, that it hasn't happened already. So thank you for making me feel like a better parent, because usually it's the other way around, and I'm like, I'm sorry for bringing shame to my people, as you
I
yell at my children.
this is the space to make it happen. I still to this day wanted like family to come in on here like they do on my other Zoom meetings. One of my funniest, it wasn't me, but it was a like during no, this is before the pandemic. One of my favorite, like I can't remember where I saw it. It was like a white guy abroad, like in an Asian country, because his wife looked of Asian descent. He's on a very important call. You can tell because of how he's talking and things like that. And one of his children, I just remember, had on the cutest little glasses and a yellow sweatshirt, marches her ass sit on the camera. Then her mom zooms and swoops in. And before the pandemic and at like the height of the lockdown, people were still like, you can't, like, we should, like, my husband right now is in the background. We, have these really contained lives and things should always be perfect, even if you're coming from your home. And now we're all just like, do not give a fuck because it's really hard to restrict what's going on in your home when you're in virtual land because it's not fair to be like, we're not going to see all of these things because it's not.
Yes, yes. I need to clean up today. As you can see, I was like, it's a blur day.
Yeah.
It's Sunday, and damn it, we should rest. And this is
That's
restful
true.
for me. Like talking to you is a goddamn joy. Like this is joy.
And it's Juneteenth.
And I also wish, like, I wish we would dedicate ourselves to more spaces where we do get to chill, where we aren't reenacting sort of like a white idea of propriety or
Yes.
professionalism, because it's not fun.
It's
And
not.
we do that all day, every day for everybody else. So when we're
Yes.
among ourselves and each other, we should feel like we can relax.
You're so right. And speaking of relax, one of the questions that I really want to ask because I know what it means to hold space for people. And I'm guessing some people in the book may be writing about these things and talking about personal lives for the first time. How did you hold space for yourself after guiding people through the process of sharing so much about themselves?
Well, I was usually sharing at the time. So it was never like
Oh,
just tell me all your secrets and I'm not going to say anything. Like, I'm just like collecting your voice like Ursula and the Little Mermaid. No. Um, it was very social. The
nice.
first several sort of meetings for Black Powerful, for what ended up becoming Black Powerful, were we met at Jack Straw Recording Studios, and I had like a bottle of whiskey, and
Ooh.
it's just like, I think I called the Facebook event like Sexy Black Voices, and I encouraged people who identified as sexy voiced Black people to join me at the recording studio. So Black Powerful was transcribed from audio, video,
Wow.
text submissions, like, but mostly audio. So it's supposed to have like the cadence of individual voices as opposed to the
Mm.
Queen's English, right? Um, so yeah, we would be drinking whiskey and talking shit, and
Yes.
in the process, I might say like, "What does it sound like when you claim yourself?" And people be like, "What do you mean?" And I'd said like, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to
Yes.
die. Like, what does it sound like? Claim yourself, like I am Moana of Motunui. You will board my boat and sail with me to return the heart of Tahiti. Like, you know what it sounds like when somebody's claiming themselves.
Yes.
And yeah, I would listen to people's responses and I'd offer my own. I'd take a stab at it, because you got to be vulnerable if you're asking for vulnerability.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the process. Very collaborative. I don't really do anything by myself. I'm no good at being that kind of an artist.
That's so cool. That's really cool. Really cool to hear. And that is definitely a world that I really appreciate. That's how I work as a playwright, which is why a lot of
Yes,
the
you do.
playwriting doesn't happen.
Yes, you do. Yeah, you have to be able to get along with people as a
Yeah.
playwright. Imagine that as like a brand, the antisocial playwright.
Yes.
Do you imagine that? Like TikToks, like it's just like because every TikTok is kind of an antisocial playwright these
It
days. Like, 'cause
is.
people are like, they have to do everything. They have to do everything. They're the editor, lighting, stage props, everything, script writing, all of it.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a great time for you to be live. Your skills are absolutely appreciated on TikTok right
That's
now.
true. And I've been fighting to not do TikTok for so long because my
Why are you
stepdaughter,
fighting?
she's on TikTok and she's like showing me all these and I'm like,
Why are you fighting TikTok? You could be fighting white supremacy.
I know, I know, I know. I may need to venture over to TikTok. I'm like, because
You
the
don't have
most of
to
the
make anything. You could just be over there consuming like the rest of us. I mean, you can't. I'm sure you'll be inspired after several thousand hours. But, um, I just like the fact that there's so many ways people can express themselves, and we don't have to wait. You know,
yeah.
I think about how disappointing social media has been. Like everything used to be better, but what's consistently great is TikTok.
Mm.
If you want to escape this cruel world, TikTok is there for you. I mean, it's racist like everything else, but everything else is racist. But there'll be like more kittens per swipe, and you know, black people roller skating. Do you understand how joyful black people roller skating is? Like, it's a whole genre of joy. Just wait, you
Oh
could just binge watch
wow.
videos of black people roller skating all afternoon. Sprinkling a couple cats, strippers washing their money. I love watching strippers wash their money and like iron it and flip
Wow.
it up to hang out and be like, yep, that was a $10,000 weekend. I'm like, that's right, bitch. Wash that money.
Yes.
Doing the work, putting the work into the work. Yeah, TikTok has everything. I like
Uh,
watching people power wash carpets.
I started watching that on YouTube. Like, I don't know why I got drawn in. I think it was like it was recommended probably because an IP address and somebody in my house watched it. And it
Mhm.
was like the filthiest. I was like, ew. And
Yeah,
it was so like meditative. So I don't know why. And I'm like, and I'm usually really cringy at stuff like that. And I'm like,
it's
why?
fascinating. I get fascinated by pimple popping, but I also get fascinated by lice removal. And I get fascinated by people removing huge continents of tartar from people's teeth, you know? So, like the dental stuff, toenail removal and stuff, like that is so disgusting. You cannot tear your eyes
Wow.
away. And I think, if you're a creative practitioner these days and you are too good for TikTok, like you're bad. You know what I mean? Like you're bad. Um, because that's where it's happening. That's where like exchange is happening at a rapid rate, like so
Mm.
quickly. You heard about the elephant that killed that woman and then trampled her body at the funeral.
No, wait, what? What?
See, you're not even getting the news because you're not on TikTok.
I'm not on TikTok.
Okay, so if something happens, like social media is definitely the first place to find out. That. If you want the news, you got to go to Twitter and find out like what's actually happening.
That's true.
So TikTok is people just interpreting everything, every bit of sound, every bit of movement, like it's all in circulation right now. And um, I think for you as a playwright and as a writer
Yeah.
and a maker of spaces, it's a great way for you to waste your time. That's all I'm saying is K
Yes.
dramas, TikTok. I mean, what are we doing here if not sharing coping strategies? Is that not what
That's
we're doing today?
true.
Yeah.
That is so true. I think because, and like one of the comments that I saw in terms of the praise for Black Powerful from the stranger saying that the survival guy, which is true. And I'm like, I've needed an episode like this for a while where it's like, okay, how the fuck do we like not fuck with this? And it's like, how do we, do this thing that's not the thing? Because people don't understand like the creative process is not just creating. Sometimes it's just not giving a fuck and like watching something else, like I can understand like watching like Pimple Popper, which my husband will be very proud to hear this because he loves Dr. Pimple Popper, and like watching the scraping of tartar, things that are like routine. And I say this from my experience. I start off as a musician. There's something about repetitiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Repetitiveness is so meditative. And I think this is why, like, like how meditation goes and chanting, it's that repetitiveness. I think it might calm the body down a little bit. So, to creatives out there, if you need to take a break from something, find something repetitive to listen to or watch because it will take your brain to another place and help you to relax. Thank you to Natasha Marin for that piece of advice.
TikTok is not paying me for this.
Oh, thank you
I
for
was just a
clarifying that.
late
Yes.
bloomer. I was a late bloomer and I was a little judgy as well. I was like, oh, that's for children. And I'm an adult. And
Yeah.
then I was super wrong. And yeah, there's lots of adults on there. Like there's a granny that just
Yes.
winds her waist and I literally just watch her whine. Like that's great because she's just still got it. Yeah. Yeah, there's something for everybody. Did you see Bridgerton, by the way?
Oh.
Okay, I only ask you this because season 2, Shonda is like using her imagination, okay? And I think most of us have already kind of slow clapped to Shonda Rhimes' imagination.
Yes, we have. Yes.
Right. So, the first season of Bridgerton was very like, let's focus center for centering white women. That's what it was. It was the center for centering white women. And, we're not all super into that. But the second season is actually worth checking out Miss Shonda Rhimes' imagination because she's like outdoing Bollywood with the makeup and the lighting and the costumes and the nuances of romance. Yeah, and you've heard her like biography, right? That she started off in the pantry playing with the cans. And I think in terms of Black Joy, that's what we're all looking to do is take that childhood where we were, maybe had a lot of spare time and we were making games in the pantry, with the little tomato paste can and the big yams can and turn it into a life, like a lucrative life, where your imagination is literally paying your bills.
Wow. So this takes me to a really good question because you mentioned earlier that you did the like MFA thing but didn't want to get jumped into the gang. How did you go from which I definitely want to talk about that too, but how did you go from not wanting to get jumped into the gang to becoming a conceptual artist?
Well, I did get jumped into the gang last year. That should also be said. So I did get jumped into the gang after all. It hurted me. And yeah, I think I've kind of capitulated to the fact that writing is going to be part of my life. But, when I started doing conceptual art, which is different to everyone who's doing conceptual art, right? You got to really circle in and ask. If somebody's like, I'm a conceptual artist, be like, what does that mean when you're doing it? Because it's not necessarily going to be the same. I usually tell people that like a painter has like a specific kind of paint as their primary medium, whether it's tempera, acrylic, oil, right? And a sculptor will sculpt in like metal or gold or marble or wood, right? My medium is people. I like to make things with people. And then making it with the people is sometimes more important than the outcome. But usually the outcome is stunning. So when I started making conceptual art, I was having secular rituals at midnight called midnight teas. And you as a playwright, you might appreciate this. You go to like what you thought was like an underground tea party, which it was, but then you were in the tea party. Like it was like a dinner party that you were cast in as opposed to watching. So you'd have a role and an assignment to complete while you're being served tea, and usually really lovely treats as well at midnight. And they would last for 3 hours, 6 hours, 12 hours, or 24 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm weird. I've been weird for a long time.
I love that idea.
I to start being weird yesterday. We're here, we're queer, we're weird.
Exactly. Yes, thank you.
Get used to it. Yeah, so that's that. Conceptual art just seemed to be the best descriptor of what it is that I'm doing. And now that the press has said so, now that the white people have said so, who am I to question that? I'm kidding, of course.
Yeah.
Hopefully people are getting the sarcasm. But yes,
Yes.
um, yeah, I'm just a human being that doesn't like spiders in the bathroom. There's really nothing that unique and different about me, except that I'm just learning how to have boundaries at the ripe old age of
Mm.
43. And I've got 3 planets in Pisces, so you can try to lie to me.
Yes.
Good luck. It's good to have goals.
Yes. I can't believe, yeah, you and I are the same age. Wow.
Olden, Olden,
Yes.
we're
So good.
olden.
Yes, we are olded. And I'm curious, like, as an artist, like thinking about where you are today, and I'm like, so, and I'm going to preface this question because I do a lot of work with young folk. And one of the things that comes up is I'm speaking for myself for the first time. This probably is going back to your books. I'm speaking about different things for the first time. And like, even getting them to make a decision on their own is so hard. And I'm curious, to prep for your life now, what would you tell your younger self?
Um, buy buy Bitcoin the first time
Yes.
somebody tells you to, and then get out before 2022. Like end of 2021, pull all your stuff out. That's what I would tell myself. Um, it's that cold, okay? Like
Oh, dear
you
God.
see what's happening. Advice to my younger self. If people are curious, it does take a little bit of looking, I've noticed, but I made a video in collaboration with Cut, which is a viral media company.
Hmm.
And we talked to 100 Black people all over the country. And I asked people to give their message to other Black people. And so it's a
Mm.
compilation of 100 Black people giving our advice to Black people. And I don't think I could give better advice than that compilation of advice, which touched on everything from like, you don't have to invite everybody to the barbecue. Um,
Mm.
you don't. To like get over centering whiteness, like uproot your
Yeah.
internalized oppression and realize that like it's all Black people. It's Black trans people, it's Black gay people, it's Black
Yes.
disabled people, it's Black neurodivergent people. Like we are all Black and we are Black together, and none of these things lessen our Blackness. And if you don't believe that Black people can look like every kind of people, just look at Eartha Kitt's daughter on Google Images.
Yes.
Like no one. If she was at the grocery store right now today, nobody would be like, "That's a Black woman." And her mother was a Black icon. Like,
Yeah.
I really don't know how these people who are still calling themselves white, which is just such a bless your heart situation to begin with, don't understand where they came from. Like,
Right.
you know, them's our sons with no home training.
You said with no home training. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I think our imaginations will be the little fairy that carries us out of any circumstance that we're in. You know,
Mm.
I joke with my sister a lot and say, like, so long as you have like tobacco and weed, like any crisis can come. And that's because we are Caribbean smoking people. There are also Caribbean drinking
Nice.
people, but we're Caribbean smoking people. So, you get yourself your little vices. That could be anything. For some people, it's
Yeah.
exercise, honestly. But whatever it is that makes you feel good, make sure you got that practice worked into your life so that good times or bad times, you know how to self-soothe. And not
Nice.
surprisingly, I saw a TikTok. This is how all of my
Yes.
references are going to go. Didn't even watch the whole thing, but the title across it, like the text across it, was like, there is a time lapse in the simulation. And the Black woman who was speaking was basically saying, like, if you go in for any of this quantum theory stuff, if you're paying attention at all to how your life feels, you'll notice that there's a little lag time. Like if you're having really negative thoughts, you will eventually sort of manifest a really negative situation for yourself. You will see things
Mm.
in that light. as I roll a cigarette.
Yes.
So, we really want to be vigilant about our sort of mental hygiene. You don't want to be consuming too much negativity. You don't want to be around people who can't celebrate you and don't want to dream with you. And you have to learn how to recognize that as like haterism and find more people who feel safe, feel like safety, and feel like home. People who help you to claim yourself and to heal yourself. And the more time we spend imagining ourselves making elaborate coffee drinks, and we'll get closer to actually doing it, living our best lives.
Yes. And speaking of living best lives, so what is next? And this is, I think, my last question. What is next for you, and how can we, as the Black Writers Read community, support you in your work?
It would be amazing if people pre-ordered Black Powerful, which they can do at McSweeney's. Mostly, I mean, not even for me, because there's 100 Black people in there who trusted me to answer these questions, and I think that they should feel like they did something. Like, there's nothing better than asking somebody to trust you, and then they trust you, and then at the end they're like, that was totally worth it. Like, I'm glad I did. So that's the vibe I'm going for. I would also say teach it. Teach it. There's curriculum guides up at McSweeney's for both Black Powerful and Black Imagination. I've used it as an anti-racism text, like teaching people in the court system and in the public schools how to listen to their Black clients, whether those are children or families or, whoever, using it as a kinesthetic practice tool. Like, because you can't actually talk while you're reading, you really do actually have to fermer la bouche, cállate la boca, and read. Your mind will have all the voices for you. So next for me, supporting me, is just tell people about Black Powerful and pick up a copy of Black Imagination and follow Vanessa German on Instagram because her art is phenomenal. Get Amanda Chupon to be your publicist. And
yes, thank you, Amanda, for connecting us.
And get all of your book recommendations from Nicole Young Martin. Like, what more can people do is like realize that we're all in this together? That would be nice. It's about time that at least Black people realize, like, all of the Black people, we are all in this together.
We are all in this together. All in this together. I actually lied. I have one more question for you, actually, because many of the people that join us for Black Writers Read are writers themselves or use writing as a reflective practice for themselves. What is one of the questions that you posed to the people participating in Black Powerful that you would like to pose to people joining us today as something to think about for themselves?
I would think about what it sounds like to claim yourself. If you were giving that Jaguar Paw speech, you're being chased back to your home part of the jungle. This is an Apocalypto reference. And you stop and you realize you're at home. And maybe the home you find yourself in is yourself, is your community, is your physical home. And you can make a declaration like, no, this is me, this is where I came from, and this is where I'm going, and this is the protections that come from my ancestors and that I will convey to my descendants. What does that sound like? I would also say, this is not in the book, but I would say, just as a practice for Black folks, for us to ask ourselves, what kind of an ancestor do you want to be?
Oh, wow.
Because we're all future ancestors, so it's a good prompt.
Yeah, and thank you for that prompt about the ancestor, because that's something that I've been thinking about for myself, especially now since I am the matriarch in my family, given that both of my parents passed, and they passed recently and they passed young. So I'm like, and the legacies that they left behind were their children, because they're like, we're proud, they funneled everything into me and my brother, and it's like, okay, so it's like, now it's like, fuck, I have to think about like my, like, what I am leaving behind as an ancestor. Damn, thanks.
Well, you're gonna be a great one. You're gonna be a great one. So. I hope you're telling other people too, like, make sure this is how you get in contact with me. It's not a Ouija board. For
Yeah.
me, you're gonna definitely have to like hold your pee for like 6 to 8 hours. Probably smoke something. If you're trying to speed dial me
Yes.
on the other side, you got to think about these things and tell people ahead of time.
Yes. Yeah. And that's something that I'm like, I gotta do. I gotta do because we have people coming after us that we want them to continue to not only live in their joy but frolic, which I need to do a black girl frolic one day. Like I need to
Can
do
you
that.
please? That could be your first TikTok.
Yeah.
And then encourage people to stitch it and frolic with you.
Oh.
Do it.
Which didn't you do a trending hashtag event once or a couple times?
Reparations, that viral
Yes.
thing where I got people all over the world to practice reparations. Yeah, I did that once.
Yes.
That was fun. Lots of
Oh.
death threats, lots of racists.
Ah,
Touched many a butthole that day.
yes. I mean, you made it. And this was my thing. I was like, okay, I knew I made it when I had to delete a lot of racist shit off of a Facebook post. I was like, oh, I have arrived because I pissed
Yes.
people off. I was like, yeah.
Yes. If you as a black woman don't get accused of racism at least once a month, you need to apply yourself.
At least once I need to work harder because I get it
Exactly.
every couple of months.
Exactly. Because
I
it's
need
the
to work
irony of being
harder.
called a racist that really just warms my heart. I'm like, really? Wow. People just use words without knowing what they mean at all. That
Yes.
freedom, that confidence.
Oh my god! And I have so many marginalized identities. I'm fat. I am black. I am from a family where we have like my patriarch got GD, major mental health issues. I'm from Detroit, from the hood. What up though? I got air,
You're
and I'm
falling
queer. I'm
intersectionally, falling.
falling intersectionally, and
Yes.
it's like I'm being called a racist. I'm like, really? We gonna do that today? Okay, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like,
It's
I
fancy. You're like, mm? Oh my God. So fancy. I can't believe I unlocked that. Wow.
yes.
Yeah. So yes, more joy, more laughter, and please frolic on TikTok and let me know when you do so I can share it with everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Natasha, I think that other than the ancestors one, I think the frolicking on TikTok is the best piece of advice I can receive on Juneteenth, Father's Day, Pride.
Our joy is a weapon and we
Yes.
should absolutely use it. Yeah.
Yes. So, Natasha, it was so beautiful chatting with you today. I hope
Thanks
this
for making
was,
the time. This was fun.
yeah, I hope this was a great way. For me, this was definitely a great way to celebrate Juneteenth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. So, enjoy the rest of your smoke. I'm going
Thank
to
you.
wrap up. I'm going to take you off camera. I'm going to do a little bit of wrap up things and call it an afternoon. So, thank you
Yes.
so
Thank
much.
you too. Bye.
So, everybody, I hope everybody that joined us today had fun for this amazing conversation with Natasha, Amanda Chuquan. I am extremely grateful for you introducing me to Natasha. Even though we're like, what, 4 time zones away? I'm East Coast, she's West Coast. I feel like she was sitting here in my living room with me during today's conversation. So, this is the very last episode of Black Writers Read for this season. I am so grateful to all of the authors who have shared their hearts and souls and their words with us. I am grateful for every single person who donated to the Indiegogo campaign to grow the platform of Black Writers Read. I am grateful to my husband for everything that he's done this year. I am grateful also to my pets for making or not making their debuts on the series. Um, and I am so grateful to all of you who are here. Many of you that are watching right now watch faithfully every single month. Every single month. Um, dang. Closing out season 2 is very meaningful because the series just grew so much in just 2 years. And I'm like super excited to see where it's going to end up. So we will be back live streaming Saturday, September 10th in the fall. I will be hosting a virtual launch party, and more information will be going out on that soon on Friday, September 9th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And there I will be announcing the full lineup of the entire third season of Black Writers Read and sharing insight into the planning process. I will have more on my website, which is NicoleMYoung.com, on how to get an invite to that party, because that party will be popping on Zoom in September. I also recently launched a Facebook group where it will give folks an opportunity of the community to exchange information, whether if it's you have a book coming out, essay coming out, um, you got this bomb ass interview you wanted to share with people, um, you are a publisher and you have a literary journal coming out or a contest coming out. This will be, and also if you have recommendations on books for people to read, books, podcasts, anything literary to listen to put our hands on. I started that Facebook community actually just earlier today. Find it, because this is going to be a very important space that we're going to co-create during the summer. Before we close out, I really want to dedicate today's episode especially to my father, who was in the other realm, Lonnie Young Jr., who passed away in 2017. And the reason why I really want to dedicate this episode to him, not just because it's Father's Day, but because there were so many things that Natasha shared with us. Like, for example, what type of ancestor you want to be, how to, center yourself and chill the fuck out, and, challenge whiteness. These are all things that my dad did and had conversations with me about. And so it's so important for me to mark this episode in his memory and honoring him. So thank you so much for helping Black Writers Read to continue to grow. Thank you for spending your Juneteenth afternoon with us, your Father's Day with us, Pride with us, and more importantly, thank you so much for making Black authors matter. I'll see you all in. Ooh, this is hard to end. I'll see you all in the fall.